Thank you, Griff. It's always fun to speak for the home group. Who all went down to the program that we had at the dam that Chad Hawkins did for us? I was hoping he would be here.
That's here.
Here he is.
Oh, hey, hi,
Thank you,
Chad.
Chad. Well, make a star out of it. So, as I was standing there, this is a history-rich spot. And I'm just thinking, wow, that would make a good program to put together all the different things I can find on the community. The riverboat town of Swartout. It literally lays right there in that view in the background. That was where Swartout was located. Contrary to popular belief that it went under the lake, it did not. So it all began with the Republic, with the Mexico selling properties in Texas to settle Texas, and a man named Arthur Garner came to Polk County and San Jacinto County and picked up, he controlled probably 12,000 acres of land at one time. There were several Garner surveys. He had a brother that died early. He got that survey, the Calvin Barco survey. Some of y'all may be familiar with that. That's down in that region around the state park. In 1838, he and two other men each put up 50 acres, and they created a riverport town they called Swartout after a New York investor. And I'll show you something on him in a moment. So this blue line is Lake Livingston pretty much. And so right here is Swartout. Like the Browder's Marina is right about here. And up here is about where the Shell Texaco station is. I mean, the Shell gas station is where you turn off of what I call 0190. So quite a bit of land that was all controlled by the Garner family. This is an early photo of what the river looked like. This was taken right there at the town of Swartout. So the first stories that we really have about the town, even predating it being called Swartout, it was called Garner Ferry. This is the image that I found that was somewhat exemplary of what Kalita would look like. Kalita was an Indian chief. He was a Coshada chief. His village was down Drew's Landing area in San Jacinto County. He was friends with Sam Houston. They were friendly to the Anglos and supported the Anglos with scouting during the War for Independence. And at the Battle of San Jacinto, it was said, and I'll give you my reference here in a moment, that Kalita witnessed the battle and saw that Santa Anna had been defeated. Well, you all heard of the runaway scrape. So when Alamo fell and everybody was slaughtered, and we knew what they did at Goliad or at Gonzales, all of the Texas citizens packed up everything they had and started coming to the Sabine River to get into the United States for fear that they were all going to be wiped out by the massive Mexican army. They called it the runaway scrape. Well, it was a very wet spring and all the rivers were swollen. It's just amazing how armies got across those swollen rivers. The Trinity was no exception, and the one ferry boat they had there was working overtime trying to get everybody across the river. So they were staging on both sides. Those that had gotten across were waiting for those that had not gotten across. And everybody it was just chaos. Well, Kalita rides up from San Jacinto to bring the news to these travel-weary settlers that Santa Anna was defeated. Kalita lived to be about 120 years old, they say. Now, this is a map from 1956. It shows the Long King village right here, and here's Swartout. So Long King was another Coshada chief, and he had the middle village. The upper village was at Patrick's Ferry at the mouth of Kickapoo Creek. That was called the Batiste village. So the Indians had long lived in this country side by side with the Anglo settlers, and they were more than willing to help these people. They were providing warmth, fires, they were providing food. When Cleta got there and gave them this news, this account was written by John Stevens. He would have been 4 years old when this happened, but he recalled this in a later narrative that he wrote. He went on to become a member of Hood's Brigade, Methodist minister, was Hill County judge, but he was a Polk County guy. Y'all all may remember Tubby Stevens. This would have been his dad's brother, Miles Stevens. Stevens Creek in San Jacinto County, same family. They spell it different, but that's the same family. Anyways, he wrote the account of Cleta coming up and telling everybody that Santa Anna had been defeated. And this is a little interesting use of AI. So I just asked AI to draw me a photo. I took a picture of Cleta crossing the river. So there's another story that was told on Cleta by the tribal members. And it's just more AI. It's hard to like it, but it's interesting to be able to illustrate something in a presentation. So, hallelujah, glory to God, God bless Sam Houston. Everybody was cheering for Cleta and cheering for the victory that particular time, 21st April. I guess that's when that happened. So Clem Fain Jr., his dad was the one that started the Fain Theaters here. He graduated from high school here in 1920, went to law school, came back and practiced law here. He grew up in a family that were advocates for the Alabama Coshada tribe. His mother, Anna, right here, wrote a book about the Alabama Coshada tribe. And this is Clem Jr. as a child. So he was predestined for this. He would go out and visit with them, and they told all these stories, legends, whatever, but one of the legends was that the reason that Cleta crossed this river, this swollen river, is that a family had gotten across the river with their family and realized that they had left a child, an infant, on the other side. So he swam the river on a horse and went over there and rescued that child. So we got two good legends on Cleta, and both of them have some validation, but what they have in common is that they were recorded. If nobody had recorded this, we wouldn't know anything about it today. So that's the Fain story, and I tell you what, the Fains were something else. We could go on and on about them. Now here's Swartout. This is Samuel Swartout. He was the port collector for the Port of New York, and he was an investor. Confidants with Sam Houston and Andrew Jackson, who was president, and he invested in the town. Never came to Texas. He wound up escaping the United States with his hair stood on his head. He embezzled over $1 million from the Port Authority. So he was a scoundrel. And for years, to be Swartout, it meant to be taken advantage of or stolen from. It won't be Swartout.
So why was his name that?
That was his last name.
No, but I missed the connection.
He was an investor.
Oh, okay. So he invested in it?
He invested in it, and they named it after him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sorry. So here's a stock certificate. If you ever find one that has Sam Houston's name on it, hang on to it. I've read over and over. I even had Dr. Pettigo, Jason's brother, who literally is a PhD, and he's a historian, college professor. I said, look, he wrote his thesis on Sam Houston. I said, find the reference to town Swartout on Sam Houston. He cannot find it, but it's a cool legend that Sam Houston was a stockholder. So, Swartout, it was built on 150 acres, 86 blocks, acre each. Had 100 people there in 1840. Had two public squares, a church, had the Masonic Lodge. The Masonic Lodge 14 was established there. A couple hotels, shoe shop, tailor shop, cotton gin. It was the headquarters for Northern Liberty District. This was before Polk County was formed. It was a mail route between Huntsville and Liberty and Huntsville and Nacogdoches. In 1846, Polk County was formed. Swartout lost out to Springfield, which was what Livingston was called at that time. Moses Shope donated 100 acres so that we could have a county seat here. And it's common belief that he made that exchange under the condition it'd be named Livingston, which was his middle name. Here is a plat of Swartout that's filed in the Polk County Courthouse. Now, it has no field notes with it. It places it on the map. But that's what it looked like. What's interesting in these days, obviously they wouldn't have had a copy machine. So somebody they transcribed the plat into the deed records. That's just painstaking. Every town, every street's got a name. Every lot has a number on it. They even drew a steamboat in the river. And I've been curious as to the location of this for, 40 years. So this is a quote from a newspaper during the time. It's situated at a spot known as Garner's Ferry, passable at all times when other ferries overflow and are impassable. The town fronts 600 yards on the river and is near Long Kings Village. It's like an 1837 newspaper ad to try to solicit settlement of this town. This is the best I can tell where it was located. And you see town sites on the map here. And one reason I wanted WR to be here is because he owns this particular piece of property. It's part of his ranch, which is, he owns, I don't know, a lot of land right in here. His dad, and I'll focus on that in a moment, but his dad came here in 1947 and bought the first part of this ranch. So the best I can tell, I've had a lot of help from Chad, thank you, and Ron Boyce at the title company, and just having been a landman, this is the best I can tell where it's situated. I got this corner, I got that line in the middle, I got this one, and I got this one. I just don't have that one, but I drew out 150 acres, and that's about where it is. Now, this is interesting. Look at this neck of woods right here, WR. And then here's the bend in the river, guarded like the old, right here. And here's a modern photo of it, aerial. So there's that same neck of woods, right here. It looks the same. This is a 1932 map, so nearly 100 years later. Does it still look like that, WR?
Yes.
And the highway came through and came across and bisected this tract, but all of this had been bought, added to, resurveyed. That's why it's so difficult to find these corners. They don't exist. They've been engulfed into and brought into bigger tracts. But that's about where it is. So it actually goes into the lake here, or could easily go into the lake, right there. When I was a landman in the early 80s, I was leasing these lands here. And the Swartout town site was, a reference point, but at that point, I never really sought to find out where it was. It wasn't applicable to what I was doing. But I drew this plat when I guess I was 22 years old. I went back and found that file and used all those references. That was kind of cool. This is what the county looked like originally. It was the northern district of Liberty County got split off and became Polk County. And then this section on the west side of the river in 1870, so this is 1846, 1870, all of this went to form San Jacinto County. And in 1875, we picked up the land between the Natchez River and the Moscow area to form the current Polk County. So Moses Shope, he was really involved. Everybody used Swartout for a port. That's where they shipped and received goods. So Moses Shope, he had been a county commissioner. They asked him to be the overseer to build a road from Swartout to Chester, where it would intersect with the Coshada Trace. The Coshada Trace went through Moscow, went through Kalita, and went straight to Onalaska, The highway going north to hit Toledo didn't exist until the 50s, but the highway going east and west did. And it went right through, went across at Patrick's Ferry. There was a ferry landing there. Huntsville was an old town. It linked up with Dodge and Huntsville. But this highway followed pretty much along King's Trace. And I found an 1841 newspaper article that explains all this in pretty good detail about what Schultz did here. He built this road 30 feet wide, had a milepost at every mile. The banks of the river had been graded as the law required. And a good and substantial ferry 55 feet long was provided, 1841. So this road, the Swartout Road, has been there all of this time. I have a place down there, and I guess that is another reason I'm so interested in this. So, it being a steamboat town, we got to talk about the river boats. So, it was a major shipping point. We shipped cotton, we shipped corn, we shipped honey, sugar cane, lumber, a lot of hides, deer hides. All went down to Galveston. Coming back up were staples like coffee, flour, sugar, liquor, tobacco, passengers, mail. Some other landings were Drew's Landing, Patrick's Ferry, as we mentioned, and Johnson's Bluff, which is Cape Royale, basically. Here's one of the famous Polk County riverboat captains, John F. Carr. His place was at Smithfield, which has been called Ace now for many, many years, but in the beginning, Smithfield, Ace was called Smithfield. He built steamboats. This was really cool to find out. He would build a steamboat, they're 125 feet long, but it didn't have any machinery on it. He would float it all the way down to Galveston to be fitted with the paddles and the machinery and the boilers. All of that got fitted down there, but he built the boats on his place right there on the river, going down towards Taylor Lake. He built one boat called the John F. Carr, and it participated in the Battle of Galveston, where we defeated the Union Army and ran them out of Galveston. They came in probably October of '62, but with the bombardment of Galveston. I had some family that fled Galveston, never to return. John F. Carr. So it's said that Polk County could have had a naval base, and that's stretching it. But it could have been a Confederate naval base in Polk County. This is a photo of Swartout looking down the river. There was a photographer here. You've heard me talk about Ben Lewis. He did us such a favor. What did he do? He recorded history. He took photos. We're still using them to this day. They're invaluable. He shot these photos. And then I took a little liberty with AI, and I put a boat in there. I took the man out, but that may have been what it would look like with a boat coming up the river. Here's another riverboat captain, and you may have heard me talk about this guy before. Junius Portman. He was from Ocean Springs. He had a boat called the Early Bird. It was built in Indiana. It was brought to Mississippi, and then he took this thing across the Gulf of Mexico to Galveston. And he ran a service on the river for years and years with the Early Bird. He got into cleaning up the river, removing debris, stumps, logs, snags as they call them. That they sunk many a riverboat was sunk due to hitting a snag. Well, the 1876, I don't have that date, I don't think, but about in there, the state passed a law and appropriated a lot of money. Well, not necessarily money. They appropriated a program where they gave 640 acres for every mile of river that was cleaned up. And Portman got that contract, and as a result, there's surveys all over the state of Texas, probably 10 of them in Polk County, the J. Porter survey. Everybody ever heard of those surveys, the abstracts? So these boats, typical riverboat was 174 tons, 120 feet long, 26 feet wide, and only a 5-foot draft. That would have been a heck of a ride across the Gulf of Mexico to get to Galveston. This is a snag boat. It's got the hoist on the front. It's not maybe not one he had, but that's exemplary of what a snag boat would have looked like. Another thing they did, this is called a government boat. And people would live on these boats that worked on those snag boats. This is taken at Swartout. Back to the Trinity Lodge. It was formed in 1840. Garner was an apprentice, as was Moses Choate. J.J. Hill, right here, was the first worshipful master of Lodge 14. His son, J.E. Hill, one of the more brilliant-minded lawyers in the state of Texas in his time, he had a big, nice house right there where B. Ellis's office is. Anybody remember that house and the big fire? It burned on July 4th. Fireworks got into it and burned the house down. That was his home. J.E. Hill Jr., his home was over on Drew, and what's the retired DPS guy's name? Kevin Berman. He lives in it. Yeah. Hill became our first mayor in 1902. He was also a county judge in later years, probably 1918 or somewhere in there. But the Hill family, they made a huge contribution to Polk County. The Miss Effie's cottage, it was their law office. One of the oldest buildings in town, without a doubt. That's an early picture of it. It's now a two-story building, but at this time it wasn't. That's where they practiced law for a couple generations. Now, these are some residents of Swartout. So this is Sarah Burks Caton. She remarried later to Raleigh, but she married John, Mary, and Caton. These are Emily's ancestors. Emily's a sixth generation Polk County. They ran a hotel there in Swartout. Then this is her son and daughter-in-law. This is M.S. Caton. They moved into Livingston. He became a jeweler, and he was owner of one of the first theaters here in town with Clem fame, and the great-grandfather of Emily. This guy, Hardy Burks, he was a brother of Sarah, and I just liked his hat. But then I started studying who this guy is. He is the great-grandfather or the patriarch of the Moore family. Putney Moore, Turk Moore, Brother Moore that was a pastor for so many years. That would be Frank Hood's father-in-law was Mr. Moore. All the Moore family can trace their lineage back to Hardy Burks. He's buried in the Mount Rose Cemetery, which is on the Swartout Road. This is the plat of Swartout again. These lots over here were owned by Sarah Burks. These lots were owned by Mary Caton. I don't know where the motels were, but each one of them owned the motel, so very likely were on those properties. Now, who is this guy? Custer. That's George Custer. So how does he fit into this? Well, he marched his army from Alexandria, Louisiana to Austin in the summer of 1865, and he came right through downtown Livingston with 3,000 troops. They marched right down the highway that goes to Swartout, the same highway we have today, and there they proceeded to cross the ferry. That must have been quite an undertaking to get 3,000 people across the river. They got on the other side, and we know this because he wrote a diary. He kept a diary. I guess most military men probably did. A journal, I guess they probably call it that, not a diary. But this information is in a book that he wrote later in life. And when they got on the other side of the river, I was looking for snakes that day, Chad. They killed so many rattlesnakes, they just called the whole place Camp Rattlesnake. But that was on August 20th, 1865 that they crossed the river. And here's kind of a little AI likeness of what may have happened there that day. That is actually a photo of another slide I'll show you in a moment, and I replaced some cars with the soldiers. Now this is something that doesn't have anything to do with Swartout. I'm bad about this, but Texas was under Union control, and in 1867 we became the 5th military district, and Livingston was the headquarters for Hardin, Liberty, Jefferson, Orange, Tyler, Jasper, Newton, Trinity, Walker, Angelina, and Montgomery counties. We had 3 companies of infantry and 1 company of cavalry that was stationed in Livingston, Texas. And there were some tough times. All those returning Confederate soldiers did not like the Union soldiers here running their business. One of the first things they did, they replaced all the county officials that couldn't take the ironclad oath. The ironclad oath was, I never took up arms against the Union. And if you had, then you got replaced. 1867. This was the house, or the office that Custer lived in or worked out of in Austin. And I was hoping Sonny would be here. I didn't really think he would, but his tailgate party, he and Malcolm Jones had a tailgate party right here in the shadows of this very building.
Oh, wow.
And they're on the, it's at the intersection of Martin Luther King and I-35. This man was born into slavery. The McGowan family migrated here. They were planters. They grew lots of cotton. All that bottom land was all plantation land. He grew up and bought the Garner Ferry in 1897 from the Garner heirs. And he and his family ran the ferry for another 30 years. Everybody remembers Howard Daniels Jr.? This was his granddaddy. And this is how Howard came to get the land. This man bought over 600 acres of land right there where the dam is. This is his grandson. He and I played football together and we stayed real close. He died last summer. I never got to share this with him. I hadn't picked this study up until then. That's Kenny McGowan. He worked at Thomas Supply. He was their yard foreman. Super guy. Here's another Ben Lewis photo. So they were big into camera, taking pictures. It was a new thing. They took a wagon, went to Swartout one day. This is the Long King Creek Bridge. You can see he's got something in his hand here. It was a cable so he could take a selfie. It was a remote cable. So there they are on the Long King Bridge. There they are on the bank of the river. There's the bend in the river that you can see that we've looked at. There's that cable where he's getting his photo. Here they are just handing it up, taking a photo. There's that cable. So they always called the road out of Livingston the Swartout Road. When it left the courthouse, you were on the Swartout Road. If you look at all the old plats, the 1846 plat of Livingston, that's called the Swartout Road. So the very first mile of improved road was to go from the courthouse to the cemetery, because when it was wet, you could not get up. It was just almost impossible to get to the cemetery. So I wouldn't say they paved it. Who knows what they did in 1910, but the very first improved road was built from the courthouse to Cemetery Hill. And the commercial club, the forerunner of the Chamber of Commerce, and W.L. West, who was the editor and proprietor of the Polk County Enterprise, was largely responsible for this road, as he was a lot of things. He was a wheel. So in the early days, the Swartout Road, before it was paved, it was the worst road anywhere. It's black land. When you get past Tempe Creek, all black land. So this is what they call a split log drag truly would have been 2 logs chained together. This is a man-made, modernized split log drag, and that's how they graded roads in the days before 1913. So Polk County had a demonstration of a traction engine. So that caught my attention. What's a traction engine? What's a tractor? A steam-powered tractor. And they liked what they saw. Oh, and they chose to do the demonstration on this road because it said it's the worst section of road in the county. And the county bought this piece of equipment. I thought about this later. How did they get this thing here? How did they get it from road to road? But that is a case, about a 1913 model traction engine. And this is what the grader looked like, something similar to this. It would have pulled that. It would have taken 2 men to operate this. 1921, the Houston Post, Polk County was building Highway 35. It was completed in 1930. But in 1920, Polk County was ahead of the curve on this, and they had about 20 miles of this road done. So the Houston Post sent two cars. These are Ranger automobiles that were built in Houston at this time, and they came up and crossed the ferry. If you wanted to go to Houston, this was the way to go. There wasn't a bridge. Highway 59 did not exist. There was no bridge across the Trinity River anywhere. Caton is in, MS Caton was the commissioner. He's in this picture. Judge E.T. Murphy was the judge at the time. Oh, let's just tell some of the people that were in the photo. E.T. Murphy, Caton, West, J.W. Cochran, Gerlach. This is Judge Murphy, the other Judge Murphy. He became county judge in 1918, served 3 terms. During his tenure as county judge, the Highway 35 was complete from the river from river to river, from Trinity to Natchez, and a bridge went in. I'll show you that next. Judge Murphy was the school superintendent here when they built the new school in 1910. He was county judge, he became state rep, then he became district judge. It's Winifred Reuter's dad's brother. He and his wife had no children. Her name was Gertrude. They left a lot of money, and which helped found the Murphy Memorial Library. So this is June 22nd, 1924. The Post came back to Livingston to see the new bridge that spanned the Trinity River. So there they are. They come into town. There's Judge Murphy. There's a picture of the new bridge. 1924. A week later, of course, they came also to see the new courthouse. On the 29th of June, this ran in the Post. Polk County proud of the new courthouse. So under Judge Murphy's tenure, the bridge, the road, the courthouse were all completed. This, I couldn't believe it when I first found this. This is a bridge that crossed the river at Swartout, and it was built by Texas Yellow Pine Lumber, which became Temple. And it was built solely to log. It was a tram. It was a logging train. It wasn't a passenger train. They built this bridge and all this infrastructure so they could cross the Trinity River. Another picture of it. This is what was left of Swartout at the time. This is the late 20s. And this is the rail. This is Goodrich, and it came through here, right through W.R.'s ranch. It came right across at Swartout, and then it came here, and it terminated here, and it terminated there. All these so all they were doing with this train was logging these woods. And when they logged it out, shipped all the timber up to Diboll, then they had no use for the train or the track or the bridge, the tracks of the bridge, and it was all removed. Are there any remnants of that old railroad grade on your place, WR?
Yeah, you can still see the tram there.
Yeah.
There's no rail.
But the road, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go back to that 32 photo, there's the bridge right there. Now this is Wayne Baker. He came here in 1947 and bought 600 acres. And Wayne was a member of our Lions Club from 1970, I guess until the day he died. He was a real active member, just one of the more fun guys you'd ever want to see here. We've talked a lot about how much, I always say the one thing I like about being a Lion is I have all these great friends, and the only place I ever see them is at Lions Club. I really good friends here, and I only see you here. Well, Judge was one of those guys. I may see him at the golf course or here and there, but I saw him on Wednesdays at Lions Club, and we always exchanged a laugh and had a good time. So after nearly 30 years of ranching, I think he just got tired of the politics that were going on at the time and said, I can do this. So he became county judge. He was county judge for, I guess, 16 years. That says 50. He was Lions Club president in 94, 95. Good Baker. So they broke ground on the lake in 65, November of 65. They thought it'd take years to fill up. They closed the gates in 69, June of 69. There's Jake McSpadden. And it filled up in November of 71. That's a little over 2 years. And here is, you know, that's basically what the region there we're talking about, where the town of Swartout was located. So there it is from the bridge. And I think that concludes my program. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I'll try to answer. All right.
Gary,
Yes.
those boats that had those arms on, was that to lift logs and stuff out of the water?
Yeah, it was a snag boat. Yeah, it had a winch system and A-frame and, yeah, remove the snags.
Generally, how
Yeah, Jim?
So there was a couple bridges. There was the one that the Yellow Pine Timber Company built. Apparently the other one that the county built, is that right? Murphy built another bridge?
The only bridges I know of were that one and then, of course, the highway bridge.
Yeah, the
That's there
highway.
now.
So is the highway bridge where 59 is now?
Oh, that bridge, yeah, that's Highway 59. That's not Swartout. What that did, I guess I didn't mention how that worked, but that negated the need for the ferry.
Okay.
You now had a straight, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
I didn't.
You now had a straight shot to Houston. And by the way, if Cleveland if that highway is clogged, you can go to Cold Spring and take a left just past Cold Spring and go to Cleveland on the old route that we had before 1924. And you dodge all that construction traffic, and it may be 4 miles, 5 miles further. But another question over here?
I wanted to say, you know, from Goodrich, going south between 59 and where the dam site is now, there's a stretch of land through there, and that's where Judge Murphy had that big cattle ranch.
That's right.
And boy, when we were kids, Doug Yard, you remember that, we were kids, they used to come down there every spring and work the cows, you know, separate, do the castration and all that. That was a show. We'd ride bicycles down there and watch them cowboys round them old wild cows up, and we really had a show there every year.
Yeah, Judge Murphy, he had an operation.
Yeah,
I assume that Murphy is the same Murphy family as the current, it's a different Murphy family.
Different Murphy family.
So the Murphy library is not associated with the Murphy feed store Murphy.
No. And it's not the Murphy Library anymore either, it's the Livingston Municipal Library. Didn't give them enough money.
Yeah.
Anybody else?